In the previous video, even after escaping the Houthi missile storm, the US Navy couldn't rest easy, because that was just one piece of a much bigger picture. In this video, the battlefield shifts to the ground where Bradley fighting vehicles unleash thunderous strikes to halt Russia's advance. And this is how it all went down. It all began in smoke, and thunder. The Ukrainian assault vehicles surged forward with brutal force. A Bradley fired off flares, blinding Russian heat-seeking missiles. Moments later, it unleashed suppressive fire, clearing a path into enemy territory. Caught off guard by the overwhelming speed, Russian troops panicked and fled on motorcycles. Many were first-timers strapped not just by gunfire, but by pure, raw fear. Who do you think was behind it all? Drop your guess in the comments and see if you're right. The moment a suspected position was spotted, the Bradley launched a Tau Missilia pinpoint strike that shook the ground. The second missile exploded right by the Russian escape route, unleashing a terrifying shockwave. One soldier was left dazed, survival instincts kicking in. In a frenzy of panic, they abandoned their motorcycle and ran for their life. Ukraine wasted no time deploying kamikaze drones in relentless pursuit, showing no mercy. Amid the Bradley's firepower and the deafening blasts from drones, one Russian soldier made a desperate dash back to his motorcycle. But he was already locked on an incoming Ukrainian drone closing in meter by meter. Fueled by adrenaline, he kept running, ignoring a gaping shrapnel wound tearing through his flesh. But no one escapes for long. As the armored vehicle rolled forward, gunners inside prepared to swing open the hatch and unleash hell on the battlefield. Now, the Bradley fully entered the fight, unleashing its 25mm cannon. A relentless stream of fire gave Russian forces no chance to strike back. Ukrainian armored vehicles split off, tightening the noose around enemy strongholds. In panic, Russian troops launched recon drones, hoping to regain coordination. But the Ukrainians kept moving, dodging artillery, shifting positions constantly. A decision was made: unleash a wave of MLRS rockets and call in frontline bombers. To evade Ukraine's SAM systems, Russian Su-25 jets flew dangerously low, hugging the terrain. At the same time, MLRS units moved into position, aligning for a coordinated strike. The Su-25S skimmed just above the ground, diving deep into enemy airspace to deliver a deadly blow. But poor coordination nearly triggered disaster. Just imagine the pilot's horror as waves of rockets poured down the battlefield, turned into a storm of steel, unleashed simultaneously from both sides. As missiles rained down, Ukrainian armored vehicles pushed toward the drop zone. A rocket slammed near the lead vehicle, shaking the entire area. The gunner quickly opened fire, neutralizing any potential ambushes. Troops leapt out, moving tactically and sweeping the terrain. They were closing in from an unexpected angle, tightening the noose with every step. The enemy had no time to react, and Ukrainian forces seized the moment, setting up positions and reloading for the next wave. Moments later, Russian troops realized they were surrounded and struck back. The battle erupted with ferocity. Bullets flew toward shadowy figures barely visible, such as modern warfare. You shoot without ever clearly seeing your enemy. Desperate to hold their second line of defense, the Russians knew losing it would be costly. One of their fighting vehicles surged forward, trying to break through with heavy firepower. But Ukrainian anti-tank units were faster, taking aim and firing. A deadly strike was closing in. The shot hit dead on, piercing the armor and turning the IFV into a miniature hellscape. The entire crew was sent straight to Valhalla. The threat on the right flank was completely wiped out. Only a few scattered gunshots echoed through the wreckage. Ukrainian forces had taken the stronghold. Sweat mixed with dust as they pulled back into the trenches, gasping for breath, hearts pounding. But the war wasn't over, not even close. The nightmare was just beginning. Right after their defeat, Russia switched to artillery. 120mm batteries roared like demons, firing 10 shells per minute. No time to breathe. Ukrainian troops were hit with a haunting sound. The ghostly whistle of the first incoming round. These fragmentation shells had a 90-meter kill radius and could tear through concrete fortifications. After unloading 10 rounds, the Russian gunners relocated to avoid counter-battery fire. But it was already too late. A Ukrainian FPV drone had locked onto their position. Extending the nightmare, Su-25S took off again, fully loaded with rockets. Skimming just above the ground, they dropped flares non-stop to evade Ukraine's air defenses. On the front lines, Ukrainian SAM operators had already locked onto their targets. But as the Russian jets stormed in, they unleashed their entire payload like a hailstorm of destruction. Ukrainian soldiers could do nothing but press against the trench walls, clutching their weapons and praying for survival in the heart of a fiery onslaught. Just when it seemed the worst was over, the nightmare returned. As a Su-25 headed back to base, it entered Ukrainian air defense range and was instantly locked on. A missile screamed toward it. The jet nosedived in desperation, completely losing control. The pilot had no time to eject, stunned by the blast. There was no escape. In a single horrifying moment, a life ended mid-air. The sky itself trembled from the force of the deadly strike. Russia responded in an instant. Advanced radar systems immediately pinpointed the Ukrainian missile launch site. A direct order followed: eliminate the control unit. A Lancet kamikaze drone took off, streaking through the air like a deadly arrow. Ukrainian soldiers had no time to escape. The drone locked onto the command vehicle and dove straight in. At the last second, the driver leapt out to safety. The explosion obliterated all guidance and targeting systems. Miraculously, the missile stockpile didn't detonate. Pushing past the wreckage, Ukraine didn't back down. Recon drones were deployed to scan the newly captured zone. 3 soldiers moved in to clear trench networks, an almost suicidal mission. Each bunker could hide enemies, booby traps, or death itself. That's why grenades were tossed in first. One soldier stepped forward without hesitation, as if he had already accepted his fate. Silent and unwavering, no one knew what drove him, only that it was pure, unshakable courage. And then came the life or death moment, a silent hand signal. The first grenade flew into the pit, a sharp, thunderous blast. Then, a second grenade followed by a flurry of gunfire. That's the rule of war. Once the area was cleared, Ukrainian soldiers removed insignias from enemy bodhisattva's grim mementos. There was no celebration, only silences if they knew tomorrow it could be their turn. Every step they took afterward led into an uncertain future, across a battlefield soaked in blood and heavy breath. Meanwhile, a shocking truth came to light. Throughout the battle, the Bradley wasn't the main attacker, was bait. Its mission: hold enemy attention, distract them while the real strike force closed in from another direction. As it charged deep into danger, every Russian FPV drone locked onto it. Even after taking anti-tank hits, the Bradley held firm. A third shell targeted its optic string to blind it. It was steel versus tech in a high-stakes duel. Ever heard about this? If you have, share a bit in the comments. But then, a miracle unfolded in the middle of hell. The Bradley's gunner spotted a kamikaze drone speeding toward a rare and terrifying sight. He pulled the trigger direct hit. The drone dropped from the sky like a shot-down meteor. Instantly, Russian artillery followed up, unleashing precision fire with deadly intent. But no matter how advanced their systems were, hitting a moving Bradley was nearly impossible. The battlefield shifted with every minute tense, breathless, and on the edge of chaos. At that very moment, the Bradley accelerated, charging straight into a Russian-held village. An artillery shell exploded just meters away, spraying dirt and rock as a deafening screech tore through the air. Without hesitation, the Bradley opened fire on buildings housing Russian troops. Russian artillery went silent, afraid of hitting their own men. Ukraine seized the upper hand, quickly deploying forces right into the heart of the village. Russian troops were caught completely off guard, no defenses in place, only chaos and panic. Without hesitation, Ukrainian troops hurled grenades into any house showing the slightest movement. One Russian soldier barely escaped from a burning building. Ukrainian units moved with flawless coordination, sweeping every street corner and clearing each floor methodically. If there was a basement, they didn't take chances. Grenades went in first. Russian forces spiraled into chaos, desperately calling for reinforcements. Then came a moment, stretched tight as wire. A Russian grenade rolled to a stop right at a Ukrainian soldier's feet. Amazingly, the Ukrainian soldier didn't panic. Calmly, he tossed his own grenade, then picked up the enemy's and flung it back. In just a few life-or-death seconds, he flipped the script. No one on the Russian side survived. He grabbed an enemy AK and rejoined his unit. But fate wasn't done with him. Yet a Russian kamikaze drone, guided by fiber optics, closed in. His life hung by a thread. And yet, once again, a miracle was about to unfold. The operation unfolded over a 60-mile front with overlapping layers of surveillance. 50 miles to the south, the Growlers began a jam symphony, each broadcasting 30 kilowatts of multiband jamming. On Iranian radars, false targets appeared in a flurry, throwing the air defense system into chaos. At exactly 1732, an S-300 battery at Natanz turned on its radar and was immediately detected. F-35 locked on, Super Hornet launched harm, Growler increased jamming. Seconds later, the $100 million air defense system was reduced to ashes. And that was just the beginning. At 1732, an S-300 air defense battery near Natanz made a serious mistake by turning on its 30 N6E2 fire control radar, breaking the silent emission mode. Immediately, the F-35 picked up the signal with its passive sensor, transmitted data to the Super Hornet via Link 16. The harm was launched, while the Growler increased the jamming. The missile flies at Mach 2.5, locks on and hits from less than 10 meters away. The $100 million radar is reduced to scrap metal. Amid the deadly silence, a Russian soldier quietly turned on his camera, not to mock, but to capture the bravery of the man standing against him. He sighed softly, eyes rimmed with red. This journey, no matter the side, was soaked in the blood of the young. And war. It devours faith, life, and compassion, leaving behind a haunted land, etched forever in memory and history. The battle ended without fanfarino trumpets, no victory, cries, just ashes, silence, and the eyes of those who survived. They had fought not just with bullets, but with unshakable courage. The Bradley may burn, comrades may fall, but their will cannot be broken. This wasn't just a battle, it was a declaration. We're still here, and we will return. What moment in the video hit you the hardest? Drop a comment and share your thoughts.